So, hey guys, and welcome to the 𝑾𝑬𝑬𝑲 podcast. Today, I have a very special guest, and if you know anything about me, and if you've listened to previous podcast episodes, you will know I am the single biggest fan of the SAS Who Dares Win show. So, I am delighted to today be joined by last year's winner, James Priestley. Hello, James. How are you?
Yes, I'm good, thank you, mate. How are you?
I'm awesome, and honestly very honoured to have you on the show today. If it's okay with you, we're going to ask you lots of questions about the show. Be as honest as you can. I'm
Yeah,
sure you will be. But yes,
absolutely.
so James has done pretty much my dream. Like I auditioned for the show, obviously the year you were on it, as well as I auditioned last year, and obviously that's now being aired right now, and didn't get in a second time. Third time lucky. Hopefully, I have already sent my audition tape off this year. Um,
Definitely keep
but yeah,
going.
let us know, James. What happened with you? What did talk me through your auditioning phase?
So, Curtis, very similar to you, mate. I applied the year before and I didn't get on. So, I passed all the physicals. I'm not sure how far you got with yours, but obviously you go down to, so I'm in Yorkshire, you go down to London to Camden.
School of
It's a
Girls.
girls' school down
Yeah.
there, I think, yeah. And you have to get to a certain point on the beep test, do a certain amount of press ups, certain amount of sit ups in a period of time, and then there's a jerry can carry, which is 20 kg each, and you've got to walk a certain distance with that, and then you've got to lift certain weights up to a certain height, and then if you pass all that, which a lot of people don't, you then get invited to get interviewed to see basically how interesting you are, if you've got a story or up like that. And the first time I went, I didn't actually reveal as much as I wanted to. So if you've got sort of a bit of a story, sometimes you do sort of keep it a secret and keep your cards close to your chest. But so the first time I didn't reveal too much about my history and stuff like that. I'm not saying that's the reason, but that could potentially have been a reason why I didn't fit in with that series. Maybe similar to yourself as well with regards to how much you reveal and whatnot. But first time they told me, yeah, sorry, you've not quite made it. So I thought, no worries, same as you as well. I'll just apply
Did you
next year.
actually hear? Sorry to butt in. Did you hear back from them? And they told you no.
Oh, I don't think they did actually.
No, no. I
No,
was gonna say
they
I
just
never
said,
hear.
yeah, if you don't hear from us in 2 weeks, you're not in, sort of
Yeah.
thing. So yeah, I didn't hear from him. And then the year after, applied again, and it was all the same things, but it might have been a bit stricter. Like you had to do two more, I think, two more levels on the beep test, and maybe the time was a little bit shorter. So I think they keep making it tougher and tougher each year, which is good because then they can do harder and harder things and know that people are going to be able to endure it, don't they?
Definitely.
So second time went through it, and I just thought, you know what? It was weak of me before to either be embarrassed or to keep my history as a secret because somebody else might be thinking the same and going, I don't want to talk about it, sort of thing. See somebody else talk about it and go, actually, it's good just to air out all your dirty laundry. No. So in this one, because I convinced myself last time, it must have been the way in which I'd not disclosed certain things. I just laid it all out there. And yeah, they called me back, I think, a week later to say you could come down for a second fitness test. So you go down for a second fitness test. And then if you pass that, which was you had to, this is where you're hooked up to all the medical stuff. So you've
Yeah.
got a pipe in your mouth and you're on a bike, and the bike will not stop getting harder. So it's
Yeah.
basically just you stop when you can't pedal anymore. And then the system, the computer it's attached to, obviously tells you what level you've got to, and everybody, gets to a certain level or whatnot. And I had a massive, because they send you the boots out as well, you see. So they send you some boots out and say, wear these in. And there's around, I don't know, 40 people that get sent all of this. It's whittled down to 40. And then they've got to get 22, I think, maybe, or 25 last year, I can't remember, out of the 40. But you've got to wear these boots in. And when I was wearing them in, you get a bit excited and you just go like the furthest distance you can go. So I had really bad blisters that got infected on my right foot.
Mad.
So when we went for this training session, I was so happy it was on a bike so that it wasn't rubbing, because honestly, I couldn't walk very well. But then just after you'd given it your all on this bike, they take you to a treadmill and go, yeah, this will keep getting faster and the incline will keep going up. You just step off to the side when you can't go anymore. And so I was like, oh my God, total mind over matter, because just walking was painful and I'd given it my all on this bike as well. So you do that, and then you know, with the pipes and everything, you jump off, and then you go for a what do you call it? Like a therapy session where they test whether you're going to be mentally stable to be able to take on board, because it's not just the direct things, which is you're going to be abused, you know, physically and mentally you're going to be abused. You're not going to have any food, you're not going to have any sleep. Are you okay with that? It's not just that, it's the fact that you're going to be on television where there's going to be thousands of people, you know, watching you. So they've got to, you know, test whether you're going to be okay with that. Once you've done that, they then left it a very long time. So probably about a month, you know, before speaking to you, they just said, we'll contact you at the next stage. Called you a week before. So it was probably back end of September. They said next week a taxi is going to come and pick you up and they're going to take you to the airport. Don't ask any questions. Just here's a list of stuff that you need to bring. That's it. And so you've got no idea where you're going. And it's all sort of very last minute, but that's what's the exciting thing about it as well. So on the day, the black taxi arrives outside my place in Leeds. You get in, and the taxi driver says, don't ask me where we're going. I've been given strict instruction not to speak to you, so don't ask me where we're going. Okay, cool. So we end up going to Manchester Airport. And, you know, obviously they don't want you to know which terminal or anything you go into, so that you can't, you know, be on your phone looking at which flights are going on that day, that time.
Yeah.
But the second you arrive in the airport, there's a woman, they're all really nice, from Minot Films, takes your phone off you, takes all your things off you, says, switch it off and then pass it to me. Don't speak to any of these people here. Here's your flight ticket. I'm going to send you off now. 10 minutes later, I'll send the others, and this, and this. And then you're in the queue together. You can't speak to each other, but we'll go on this like single propeller like aeroplane, and it's then you see that, all right, we're off to Scotland.
Wow.
All the previous ones, you know, all go to all these tropical places and up in the mountains in the snow, and it's like, oh, you're going to be flying for about 2 hours to Scotland.
Oh, lovely, lovely.
Yeah, gets to Inverness, and then it's another 3 hours from there, and you're up, and then before you know it, they're waking you up at 2 a.m. In this like B&B that we were in. Everybody up, banging on everybody's doors, get your stuff, let's go. So we all go onto these, and it's freezing, absolutely freezing. Get onto the ribs, you know, and it's pitch black, and so we're on that, and they're just braying it down this lake. And then it starts getting light, because we must have been on there for about 2 or 3 hours, absolutely freezing. It starts getting light. We pick up Foxy and Ollie, and Foxy, Ollie and Billy, they jump on, and that's when you know it's serious. So we're all sat there, and Ollie just goes to I think it was Kimmy. He goes, what the fuck are you smiling at? And she was like, oh, nothing. And he says, you fucking smile when I tell you to fucking smile. And that's when everybody was just facing forward like, shit, right, it's on now. And then we pulled up, and they said, right, we're going to pull up 200 meters from shore. You'll see Ant on the other side. We're going to keep on going, and we're just going to push you in one by one. So it's just honestly from 0 to 100 from there. But so that's sort of the application process right up until the first hour, really.
Amazing. That sounds awesome. So with regards, one thing you mentioned there was the food, and that was one of the questions I had. Like, what do you get food breaks? Because you never see that part of the show.
You do, yeah. So every morning at about 7, I think it is where you go into the canteen with your tray. So you've all got to look after your own stuff, your own tray and cutlery and whatever, and it's got to be on your bag all the time. And what you normally get is one like one spoonful of porridge,
Wow.
and it's just dry. It's like it's just taste of nothing. So what everybody did was we had salt on the tables, so everybody was just salt in the porridge, so it actually tasted of something.
Yeah.
But what happened to me, honestly, I'm not joking, Curtis, about 3 times I proper lost my head because I went with the salt shaker to put salt in and the lid came off and it all just went.
Oh no.
I was like, fucking hell, who's taking the lid off and not putting it back on?
Jesus.
So you get that, and then at lunchtime they usually bring you some sarnies, and then at dinner you have not dry pasta, sorry, just like no no sauce or anything. It's just cooked pasta
Yeah.
with like fruit. So it's just like, oh, sometimes you got chicken breast, which was good, but that's it then.
Wow.
But in between that, you're all over the place. But one thing they didn't show you on it was one day, I think it was like day 9 or something. They'd killed a deer, and they taught us how to cut it up to pieces. Wow. And they said, we're not actually going to feed you today. You're going to have to cook this deer, and that'll be your lunch and dinner. And you know what? It was awesome. So we cut it all up, and it was really good. That was probably the most we ate ever.
Wow. Yeah.
When we cut up this deer, but it didn't show you it. But yeah, so food wise, just before your next question, on the last day, sorry, second to last day or third to last day, when you go on the run, they give you a tin of chickpeas, and you've got that in your Bergen, and they say when you go on the run, if you do well, you'll be on the run for 24 hours. Make sure you ration those chickpeas because that's all you've got. So that's all we had on that day, where you're constantly moving, going through water, just constantly moving, and you've got a tin of chickpeas, and that's it. So again,
Is
it's
that
a
just
mental
before you
thing,
get
like,
caught as well?
Is it what?
Is that the part just before they kind of capture you and then you do the
That's it.
interrogation? Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you've got a map, you've got to navigate, you're going in the water and everything, and but then they know exactly where you are all the time. So they know that when you're on the face of a hill and you're wet through because you've just been in one of the lakes, they'll send these guys, the hunter force, so that as soon as you start sort of relaxing a bit and you start walking, these guys will come round and start firing in blanks with balaclavas on, saying, get here. So you've got to start running again. So you're never stopping ever.
Wow.
And you, like I say, you just got this tin of chickpeas. So yeah, that part of it was tough. Like,
So one thing I was doing when the show first aired is the few people who I'd followed, some of them were going like live stream on Instagram afterwards, and like
right.
they were talking about that episode, and very often they'd say, "Oh my god, they didn't show this, didn't show that." So was there anything on the show like that you were a little bit disappointed they didn't show, or anything like you can share that wasn't shown?
Yeah, not disappointed or anything with the stuff they didn't show, because I think they've got to squeeze every hour into a minute. So I get it. Not everything can be shown. It's good, it's TV at the end of the day, so they've got to do what they've got to do. But we did, a helicopter picked us up one day, and we abseiled out of the helicopter into a moving boat.
Wow, yeah.
That was pretty cool, and they weren't able to show that. I don't know why, because that was, well, I suppose it wasn't really a hard task. It was more of a cool thing to do.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why. But yeah, there was that they didn't show. We actually had a massive tug of war one day.
Yeah.
My team lost, and so we had to make our own den in the woods, and we had to sleep in there for one night. That was absolutely terrible, because it's Scotland, so it's just absolutely pissing it down 24/7.
Yeah.
And we had to build a fire, make a fire, and keep it going with what we could find. So as soon as the fire starts going down, you can't even enjoy it for a minute, because you've got to stand up and go walking through the rain again, finding twigs and stuff, and try and find something dry, which was impossible to get it going. And they came and got us at 7 o'clock the next morning, and none of us slept because we just made this den into like a bit of a dip of mud with some like branches over it. It was absolutely crap, was this den that we made. But they didn't show that either. But it was all good, and there'll be a reason why they don't put it on. Maybe it wouldn't, the footage they got maybe might not have been that great, or could be a few things really.
That's interesting. Like you say, the thing is, the viewer sees it from what they show, and that like there's so many people out there, and like you say, everybody says, "Oh, I'm sure I could have done that. I'm sure I could have done that." What they haven't seen is, like you say, that early wake up in the morning, you just being chucked on something. And when those
Yeah,
lads, there was like two of them who quit literally after being chucked in the sea, wasn't there?
that's
So
right.
for the viewer, that looks like you've just got on a boat, you've been told, like, we're filming now, and they literally quit at stage one. But really, they've already had no sleep that night. Probably
Yeah,
freezing cold for 2 3 hours on a boat. There's
yeah.
a lot, obviously, that you don't see, which is, like you say, not just body wise, but mind. It plays with your mind a lot as well, don't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And you've hit the nail on the head there. So I think the mind aspect of it is the toughest thing of the entire program. So the physical things your body will do. And these guys are expecting the top three, like fittest people. They're not just going to push them through. It's who are at the front all the time. It's the people who won't quit. So I don't want to take anything from the two lads who quit, within the first hour.
Yeah.
But I guarantee it won't have had much to do with the physical aspect of it. It will be their mind telling them, we don't want to do this.
Yeah.
We've seen this program, it looked cool. Actually, now we're here. I don't want to do this. That's why they will have thrown the badge in. It won't have been much to do with the fact that, it was quite physical coming off the boat and having to swim, in all your clothes that's all heavy weighing you down. Yeah, I don't think it'll have been much to do with that. It's the fact that when you get to the beach and you get beasted on the beach, and then they tell you to get down to your boxers and your brown knickers and say, we're now going to start going up this mountain and you've got to crawl over these thorns and stuff like that. I think just a few people go lock into it, become someone tough and just go, right, let's do it. And some other people, their mind is telling them, obviously, listen, we don't want to do this. So let's go. And they just, that's what happens. So the mental aspect of it, I think, is tougher than the physical, definitely.
Cool, definitely. That's definitely a part. Like you say, with myself, I'm obviously a personal trainer. I do a lot of training. I watch every show, every episode, and
Yeah.
you kind of feel like you can train a certain aspect of it, but there's definitely that part of like you say, all the things they throw at you, unexpected stuff that is the mental part that I've always thought is the bit you have to overcome.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to ask you is because I noticed on your Instagram you do a couple of like the sea dips and the ice, like jumping
Yeah.
in lakes and stuff.
Yeah.
That's something I started doing over literally since I started training for the season you were on. I thought that's probably
Nice.
something they're going to do. I'm going to start doing some ice baths and stuff like that. So I live on Lowestoft, which is the very easterly point of England, which we're lucky to have a beach.
Right.
And I've been now almost, well, actually over a year. I've been getting in the sea every single Saturday and just sort of bearing it, as best I can. But what I wanted to ask you is like, how cold was the sea when you're doing those challenges?
Oh my God. It was absolutely terrible.
Yeah.
So that is, you'll know, obviously, going in the ocean over here, it's got to be freezing. That is total mental power. Like, it is so cold. And the thing is, when you see everybody around you, it's difficult by yourself. I don't know if you're training by yourself when you go into the cold water, but if you're with someone, it's so much easier
Yeah.
because you're getting in together, you're doing it together. It's like the pain is shared, sort of. When you're there and you're alone with your own mind, when you're training for it, which is what I was doing, which is what you've been doing, it's hard. But yeah, up there, the thing is, you kind of almost get used to it because from day one, you're just wet through constantly.
Yeah.
You're never dry. Almost like it's second nature to just be doing this with your hands, and you forget that you're doing it, because you're so cold all the time.
Wow.
The water was absolutely freezing, but it's cold everywhere, isn't it? It's difficult to explain how cold it is, but I will tell you one thing that they missed out, and I hope this doesn't come across like maybe she didn't want people to know, but it's just a story to tell, basically. But it's no disrespect to this girl, but there was a girl on it who we had just finished our first or our second. Oh no, it was the first Sickner.
Yeah.
And basically, we had to all link arms and go into the ocean, absolutely freezing, turn around and stay calm. But then after sort of 4.5 minutes of being in there, they say, right, everybody out and chuck somebody on your shoulders and come up the side of this mountain, which was unbelievably steep. up it, down, up it, down. And we know from watching the program, they do that until 3 or 4 people quit,
Yeah.
which eventually happened, right? But then they play tricks on you constantly. So 4 people quit and they said, right, stop, line up on the beach. So we lined up on the beach. We'd got into, they said, get into your dry clothes, which again is not even that dry. Get into your dry clothes, put your wet clothes on that, line up on the beach. Now turn around. Do you see the boat out there? And it must have been about 400 meters out. Right, that's your extraction. So face the way in which you're going to be walking. So now we're all thinking, oh, great, we're now dry gear. We're all going to be going into the ocean now. Right, take 1 step forward. So we all took 1 step, take 2. And they were playing the trick. And this one girl said, no, I'm done. I cannot go in that water again. So she took a number off. She said, I am cold to my bones. I cannot go in that water again. I'm sorry. Handed a number in. And then Ant said, extraction has been compromised. Everybody turn around. Go to the Land Rovers. So it was just a trick, you know, to see who was going to break. And she was left on the beach when we all went to the Land Rovers, and she'd quit because she thought we were going back in and we weren't. So yeah, hopefully that'll be a bit of sort of evidence to show that it was so cold. People threw in their numbers because they didn't want to go back in the water again.
Wow, yeah, well, only from experience, I can quite imagine that. And like you say, I've been trying to do sort of 3 to 5 minutes at a time in there, but like especially in sort of January, February, it's absolutely awful, and it's a hard thing to do. Whereas now, you know, this sort of time, if I had to, I could probably do a good 20-minute stint in there at a push. Don't get me wrong, it's not comfortable at all. And whilst I'm doing it, I'm hating every second of it, but it's that buzz you get afterwards. It's just a good feeling and like good training. And my dad does it with me as well, and he's 62, nice. So honestly, he's a machine. That's awesome to do.
No way, that's awesome.
Yeah, so another thing I wanted to ask was the DSers. Is there anyone who stands out as particularly nice or anyone who's really horrible on the show? The thing you said about Ollie a little while ago sounded a little bit harsh.
Yeah, so they're all there for a purpose. And for the first 3 days, maybe even the first 4 days, they are equally very horrible, nasty people. But then, rightfully so, they start showing you a little bit more respect. Each day that goes by and more people start filtering away, they show you more and more respect and give you a bit more into their personality. And the fact of the matter is, they're not horrible people at all. You know, they're just wanting to bring something out of you.
Definitely.
So that's what it is. So to describe them all, I think to be one of those soldiers in the SAS, you have to have that perfect combination of intellect and savagery to be able to switch either of those things on in the highest moments. And that's what each of them had. They knew exactly what to do. You listened to them. You focused, even when you had nothing left, all your energy was focused on listening what they had to say. But one thing about Ant, and Ant being a leader, is he was obviously the smallest stature. You know, he's a short guy, but he commanded the most respect. Wow, he just led with absolute admiration. When he walked on, everybody was silent. Everybody was hanging on his every word. The way he would deliver instructions or a bollocking or a bit of inspiration, bit of motivation, it would just give you goosebumps every time. Like, he is really surgical. You would follow him anywhere, you know. That's the caliber of guy that you're dealing with. But obviously at the end, you know, they tell the cameras. So the cameras come and, you know, they do the thing and you shake hands with them and a bit of a cuddle with them. And then they send the cameras off and they say, right, boys, bring it in. And that's when they come in for a proper cuddle and a kiss, which is such a powerful thing, you know,
amazing.
Just that stereotype of, you know, brute force men. You know, you might have a bit of a power hug now and again and stuff like that, but the power and sort of that moment and respect where each and one of them held on to you for a while and hugged you, then give you a kiss on the cheek, and you just think, wow, you've just spent 12 days, 13 days or whatever with these guys abusing you, and for something like this then to happen is just is unbelievable. But that's the type of people they are, you know, that they are all very lovely people.
Amazing.
can switch it on, you know, when they need to.
Well, one of the people who always stands out to me, and he's never really spoke about, but funnily enough, one of my best friends is actually knows him because he used to serve in the army, and that is the bald interrogator. I can't remember his name. Is it
Oh
Dopes or
yeah,
something like that? So him. Well, was it? Do you know his name?
we didn't get told his name,
I
but
can't remember his name. My friend would know. Obviously, he served. He was their boxing coach in the army, and he
right,
said he is the single most scary man he has ever met. They used to call him something out of a horror movie, and he said he's got all
yeah.
wonky teeth. He said he has so much authority, and he said I feel sorry for them recruits that have got to bear with him. So what was he like?
Yeah, honestly, I didn't have him, and the reason why I didn't is because, well, just from watching the program back, is because the umpire had said, which is probably right, you know, I would feel comfortable with somebody shouting at me. I would know exactly what to do. I would either go one way and go, you scared. I would pretend to be scared and say, you're scaring me. I can't think. You're stressing me out. You know, you're asking me these questions. You're shouting at me. Or I would go the other way and I would just sort of give them the little bits of information that we were taught to do.
Yeah,
So what the umpire said was, when they were talking about all of us, they said, yeah, I've forgotten his name as well, but the tall bald guy said, get him on Chris because Chris has got a bit of a temper
yeah,
and he will bring something out of him,
yeah,
which they almost did, didn't they?
yeah,
But
definitely.
Chris held his own, which was good. Whereas they said to me, which was so perfect as well with my personality, they said, if you send someone in to try and shout at him, he will just laugh, which I wouldn't have done. But they said, he will just laugh at you. He will take it in his stride. Send in Liz. And you know what? It worked because I was really uneasy around her.
I bet.
So she was very lovely. Like, I was just like, you know, there's a reason why she's being so nice, but I can't not mirror that.
Yeah,
You have to be sort of nice back. And it was very uncomfortable being sat opposite her because you're trying to remember the lies, you know, the story.
yeah, yeah,
You're not trying to look stupid.
yeah.
And because she's being nice, it's very uneasy. Whereas, so I only met the bald guy when we had all finished, and all the interrogators come in afterwards as well as the umpire, and they said, "Don't worry, guys, we've switched all the cameras off. This is us now. We just don't want you to think that we're dickheads. You know, we've
Yeah.
got a job to do. We've got a
Wow.
job to do to extract information from people." So they all came in, and that was another very powerful moment because we were hugging them all and they were saying, "Well done," and laughing and saying, "You know, I almost got you," and bits and bobs like this.
Amazing.
And it was just unbelievable that, again, I think people perceive things on TV like these people through and through and nasty people or whatever, whereas they're not. Everybody's got a persona, you know, and they have got a job to do and they switch it on. So, I mean, luckily, because he probably would have got right in my face and shouted at me, luckily I didn't have to speak to him. He wasn't in my interrogation. Unluckily, I had Liz, who, yeah, could have, honestly, they know how to read people because those interrogators, they work in real life. You know, when they capture people, they bring those
Probably,
interrogators
yeah.
in and they suss them out. So they say, right, this type of character, from bringing him in, he won't do well with aggression. So I'll send in Liz, you know, because if you be aggressive to this person, they'll just laugh. They won't be bothered at all. Send in Liz, and she will extract what she needs really cleverly
Wow.
by just getting into your subconscious and coming at your flank, sort of thing, you know. So, yeah, I did have Jay, though, the other guy, who I would imagine why, because he tried testing me, but I was very cool about it. So he was like asking me questions about my tattoos and stuff, because you've got to get naked in front of them, and then they put you in a jumpsuit because it's that form of humiliation that also breaks you down, makes you feel vulnerable, you know, so that you won't remember your story, and it's to mentally break you down so that you make a mistake.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was kind of aggressive, but then was okay. And then after that, I was just with Liz, and it was the worst thing ever because
Yeah.
I was very uneasy around Liz.
Well, the man you were talking about, funny enough, was with Battle. Is it Battlefuel? Who's Ollie's Like Ollie's
Mm.
group. Well, I went to
Yeah.
Body Power, and they were all there. There was a few of them there, and there was Rick Stevens from season before yourself, and there
Oh
was a
yeah.
few. There's a few good people there. But that interrogator you're talking about, his presence. I was sitting there thinking, God, he's the one. He's the man, and he's a big man, isn't he? He's a lot bigger
Yeah.
than I imagined him to be. And I was like, God, he's even scary to look at. And I was like, God,
Yeah.
just get a little sense of what he's like. So him
That's
in
it.
your face, I dread to think what that's like.
Oh yeah, honestly, it works. You've got the intimidator, but then you've got like the comfort, the comfort woman. It's total opposite ends of the scales. The intimidator will break people down, and they will, start spilling the beans. Whereas, yeah, when she comes in very cleverly, very softly, that also leaves you a bit vulnerable as well.
Oh,
So
definitely.
yeah, but he's a big lad, that guy. Yeah.
Yeah. So one big question I wanted to ask you, which is very personal to be honest, and that is what would have made you quit? You know, I know it's very easy to say nothing, I'm the strongest guy, but would, for instance, if I said do 1,000 press ups, realistically you're
Yeah.
not going to be able to do that. But is there anything you think, or was there any time you were quite close?
There was no time I was close to quitting. No, I never feared for my health or anything like that. You just have it in your mind that it's going to end,
Yeah.
So that's the only comfort you have, that eventually this will end. Um, so I can't. I'd like to be able to tell you, there's a point in which I thought, I don't know if I can do this, but I suppose that's what sort of pushes you through. It never crossed my mind ever
Awesome.
that I couldn't get through a day. But thinking about it, the only thing that would be if they were hurting. You know, when they got rid of the mole, Jay.
Yeah.
If they were hurting other people because I made a mistake, and I could see that it was hurting them, whatever was happening, would probably be then that I would have to save them. I would probably give them my badge.
Wow.
I'd give them
Yeah.
the number then, if they were hurting somebody else. But otherwise, like we were saying to Chris, I don't want to be too big headed about it because we were obviously destroyed, but we would have gone. We would have gone a few more days,
Yeah.
because at the end, one thing they didn't, another thing they didn't show you, which I forgot, was when you come out of the drown proofing,
Yeah.
and they're over a hill, and then they say, right, number 1, number 25, whatever, come to us. So you jog up to him, your boots are full of water, you're absolutely done in. They said, right, there's a mountain there, and it was massive. And Ant said, it took me 3.5 hours to go up one side and 3.5 hours to come down the other side in trainers. So I'll give you guys an extra half hour because you're in boots. So I'll give you 7.5 hours to get up and over that and come back down the other side. If you are 7 hours and 31 minutes, you have failed this course. So are you, does anybody want to quit? And we both said, no, let's do it. Let's go for it. And that's when he said, I'm glad you said that because it's actually the end of the course now.
Oh, wow.
So it was another trick so that if one of us was to go, listen, I cannot take this anymore, it would have whittled it down to one. But how gutting would that have been if they didn't actually have to do it?
I know. Yeah.
So if they wanted us to go up that mountain, and we would have done it. I
Definitely.
mean, the likelihood is we might have passed out eventually, but yeah, I think we both were that strong-willed that we thought if there's got to be one winner, I know that we were both thinking the same thing, like it's going to be me.
Yeah. Awesome.
He was thinking it's going to be him. I was thinking it's going to be me. So we're just going to keep going until one of us sort of passes out. So
Definitely.
yeah, hopefully that answers it with regards to
Oh, definitely. That's that. I think that's the mindset you have to even, get anywhere on that show. And one part of that drown proof, and reminded me of, is when you're sitting there shivering, and Ant says to you, "You're cold," and you're like, "No."
Yeah. I know, because he would have said something like, run up that hill then
Yeah.
and get yourself warm. It's like, nah, I'll just stand here shivering. I'm all right. Cheers.
Awesome.
But that's a big mental attack on your nerves, because you've got to really power up. So you're in that pool that is absolutely freezing because you're halfway up the mountain, and it's a waterfall that's feeding into this pool that's really deep. And you've got to pretend. So the reason behind it is if you get kidnapped and you're in the SAS and you're on one of these ribs, and you can kind of figure out, and you've got a bag over your head or like that. If you can kind of figure out that you're close to shore, or you can save yourself, roll off the back, and if you can blow out all the air and reach the bottom and keep coming up, it's anti-drown proofing because your hands are tied and everything.
Wow.
You can breathe and then go back down, and then breathe and then go back down. But because you're that exhausted, every press that you do takes, you know, the energy that you don't even have out of you. But also, you've got to take a deep breath when the cold is pressing in on your lungs anyway, because it's so cold, the water. Take a deep breath and then release as you're going down, and sort of to get to the bottom, because if you run out of air before you get to the bottom and you try and get back up, you're not going to have enough momentum. So yeah, you had to do that 17 times to pass it, which is a really long time.
Yeah.
And that is just a massive attack on the mental aspect of it, because like Chris was saying afterwards, he wasn't sure when it was going to end. Neither was I. I just thought, I've got to keep going unless I actually drowned here, because, you know, once you get past 10, that's a lot of times.
Yeah.
So yeah, the mental aspect of that was really tough, thinking how many more of these up and downs are we going to have to do.
Did you manage to pass that one? Because I can always remember, because they didn't really show much of like that part, did they?
Yeah, so I was the only one that passed that part.
Oh wow.
Which was good. Chris, I think, got cramp, so he was doing really well. But because you're not getting enough food, you're not getting enough water and stuff like that, it's quite easy to get cramp. And I think he got cramp at one point, and then they had to pull him out. But because he was miles fitter than me, and he had been, you know, at the front of the course for the entirety, and said to him, "Listen, it's a good job you've done so well." And that was your like sort of second fuck up sort of thing.
Yeah.
Because well, the only one I did fail was where you had to shoot, where you had to not shoot the ally, and that was the only task I failed.
Wow.
So which it is tough, you know, when they're doing it all. But yeah, it's that one goes on for a lot longer than you think as well. You know, the drown proof, and we were there for ages, you know, doing it. So yeah.
One last sort of question really is like, once you win, once you are actually the winner, like you said, you give you the hugs and everything, what happens then? Is that, do they get in touch with you after the show, or do they kind of just leave you on your way, or is there a sort of offboarding process?
No, yeah, to be honest with you, it was just a sort of, so they said, well, you know, we hugged it out and everything, and then they said, we'll walk down together, we'll walk down this hill together, and then you have a good chat with each other, and then yeah, they all go off, you have another bit of a hug, they all go off, other people come round to look after you from a health and safety point of view. So they were giving us bags of sweets and stuff to get our blood sugar back up, which was awesome, you know, first sweets we've seen in a couple of weeks. And then they just get you in the back of the lander and you go for a debrief. We actually never saw him again.
Wow.
Because 2 days later, the celebrity one was coming.
Yeah.
So they only had 2 days rest, and then they're back on it again, where Katie Price and 𝑾𝑬𝑬𝑲 on that one.
Yeah.
They were all coming 2 days after. So we go for a debrief with the psychiatrist, and they make sure that we haven't been, you know, traumatized too much. And I'll never forget it. The woman who took our phones, you know, to start with, she brought our phones, which again was amazing. It's like, oh yeah, we're going to be able to call somebody now. And then she said, now what do you want to eat? You can have anything you want.
Wow.
And I was looking at Chris, yeah, thinking, oh my God. I said, have you got some fish and chips? And she says, yeah, we'll get some fish and chips. I was like, honestly, nearly broke down at that. And he was like, I'll have the same. And when they brought this plate, I couldn't finish it. Like, it was, because your stomach has shrunk and you've lost so much weight. You're only used to eating so much. I couldn't finish it. But yeah, and then you get all your sort of injuries sewn too, because all your cuts get infected.
Yeah.
Because your body is trying to look after the vital organs. Whenever you get a cut, and the Sundeep, the doctor as well, he said this before we all went on. He said, look after your cuts, because they are going to get infected. 100% they're going to get infected because your body will be looking after your organs. It won't be looking after your skin because you're dehydrated, malnourished, and you've lack of sleep. It'll just look after your organs, and so your hands are throbbing and swollen because of all the cuts and stuff. But I could not turn the shower down enough. And I said this to Chris as well in this B&B that we stayed in. The first warm shower we got in, it hurt your skin.
Wow.
Because it was just too warm. Your skin wasn't used to it at all.
Really?
You haven't had warm water in it, a couple of weeks. All you've known, because you don't get showers there, you don't get anything. The only time you sort of get the mud off of you is when you're going into the ocean.
Yeah.
Or, that's the only time really. So you couldn't, I put it to the lowest setting because it was burning me and I had to, but it must not have been that hot at all, but you've got to ease your way into the shower.
Wow.
But, and the bed you get in is just so comfortable. It's too comfy. Like,
wow.
you're so comfy. You're excited about how comfy you are. You can't sleep. It's a mental thing to think about. But, that's what happened. Yeah, and then you get put on the flight back. We met up with Kimmy and Cara. Cara it was. Because they had both had to stay in hospital because of what had happened to their legs.
Jeez.
So their legs were swollen to like twice the size.
Wow.
You'll probably know what had happened. I wasn't sure what had happened, but must have been like the fluid or something had got trapped.
Probably, yeah, sounds it.
And we flew back with them, and that was it.
Well, another person who was on your show, is her name Donna? Was it Donna?
Yeah.
The frizzy haired one. Well, she was in my group of 10 for the auditions.
Really?
And that's what I was going to say to you, because in my group of 10, only 3 of us, I was one of them, managed to pass all the challenges. I think she failed on the carry one and one of the other ones as well. So when we got through to the next part, there was 5 of us who then got asked to go through to the speaking to the obviously camera crew, and she was one of them there. And I thought, hang on a minute, she didn't pass the last 2, and I didn't really get it. And then when I see her on the show, I was like, hang on a minute, maybe they didn't want us to pass. But when you sort of said you passed, then obviously, yeah, that's obviously a thing that's who knows.
That's the thing. If there's someone there with a story, or for diversity, let's say, the likelihood is they're going to get through before somebody else who might not have a story, but who can quite capably do that course from start to finish.
Yeah, makes sense.
It's a TV program at the end of the day, isn't it? So maybe that's why I would.
Have you been watching the new series? Obviously, there's only been 1 episode so far. Is there anyone who stands out to you at the moment as a winner? What I like to do at the start, I get the picture of them all, I send it to my friend, and we always circle who we think's the best and who we think's going to drop out. So we both circled. We said we'll circle 2 for the best. I circled the firefighter who left, so I was no good there. And I also circled the mole, so I obviously could see that he was decent. And the ones who I crossed out, they've already left. So I had not a bad sort of guess that year. But what about yourself? Have anyone stands out?
I'm thinking the Irish dancer.
Yes.
And the blonde girl with the tattoos.
Definitely, yeah. She looks very strong. The 200-kilo deadlift girl.
That's it, yeah, quite strong. So I bet because if they've got something a bit more about them and something to prove, that's what's going to take them to the end.
Definitely.
I think anyway. But I'm guessing I was circled last year, yeah, when you did this same thing.
Of course, mate. When it first aired last year, I was just gutted that I weren't part of it, to be honest. I didn't even send the picture out. I was like, oh, God. But no, it's always good to sort of have a little guess. The other thing I was going to say, have you got any final advice for anyone like myself who is training, obviously, to get on the show, to get selected? What sort of training things would you suggest would be a good thing to start implementing that will help you on the show?
So everything you see in the show. So I know that you love the show and everything, just like I do. I watched it religiously every single week, and I noted down and saw things that I didn't see before. So I'd start series 1 right through to series 4, and then I'd start it again. I'd watch it again the week after, and I'd note down, all right, yep, there's this, there's the waddling, obviously you got to carry people up hills.
Yeah.
So that was one of the biggest things. I've got a friend who 3 days a week, says, right, well, we're going to go training around Leeds, go up and down these hills. So the advice I will give is the torture they give you is sort of mimicked each series.
Yeah.
So for you to be tortured less, get conditioned to that sort of stuff.
Definitely.
So wear boots everywhere. Get used to wearing boots everywhere, because once your feet go, which mine luckily didn't, but a few other people did, once your feet go, your fitness, it doesn't matter how fit you are, your feet will be on your mind all the time that you have massive blisters and it's hurting. So do you running, however hot it is outside, run in heavy boots with weight on your back, so that your body's conditioned to doing that all the time.
Awesome.
And definitely running up hills with people. Put someone on your back, go up the hills and keep progressing more and more and more. But water is obviously a big aspect of them all as well.
Yeah.
So I don't think anybody can ever, even Wim Hof, I don't think you can ever not feel the cold of water. Definitely. You can just convince yourself that you've done it before.
Yeah.
So this, same as you, I went up in an outdoor swimming place just up near me in this, it's a quarry that's filled with water, and they do like training and stuff. So it's the first time I've ever done it. Went in there freezing. Everybody else is in wetsuits, but I thought, you know what, I'm going to have to go in my shorts because I'm not going to get a wetsuit on the program.
No.
So everybody was thinking I was a right nutcase. But when it got to the program, although it's still painful to get in the water, it's more of a mental thing that you think, I've done this before, it's all right.
Yeah, awesome.
So I would say just conditioning yourself so that when you're mentally faced with a task of doing something, it doesn't hit you mentally that bad, because you think, I've done this before.
Yeah, amazing.
And convince yourself.
What about the old stress positions? They always look something you can't practice.
Honestly, Curtis, that was by far the worst and most hardest point of the entire program. Wow. It is unbelievably excruciating. And so much so, not only from a mental and physical point of view, but people were coming out a bit deformed. So we were part of a group, and we were getting pictures of chiropractors and stuff, putting people back together because of these stress positions. So you sat cross-legged on a cold, stone cold floor with your arms behind your head like this. And the second, honestly, after about 15 seconds, you just think, oh, you just come forward a little bit. Someone comes behind you, puts the knee in your back, pulls your elbow back.
Yeah.
So there's the physical aspect of not having any rest whatsoever, but then the mental aspect of, you know that you're never going to get a break.
Yeah.
So when you're getting interrogated, it's the best feeling. When someone stands you up and walks you out, you think, oh, I'm going to talk to this person for as long as possible, because it keeps me away from the stress positions. But I don't know if you've seen all the ones. There's other podcasts and stuff that I did where I spoke about mentally how I got through that.
Was it with the film?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
The one with Andrea McLean. When she was interviewing me, and she said, how do you not think about like the babies crying, and it's like pigs squealing, and then drills, and just people screaming in general, and then also people messing with you, so tapping your goggles and all that sort of stuff. How do you get through it? You've got to go somewhere else.
Definitely.
So I started watching Transformers.
That's amazing.
From start to finish.
Awesome.
Started watching that from start to finish, and before you know it, you can start hearing people slightly like crying and stuff, and saying, I'm done, and it sort of gives you motivation when the more and more people you can see are quitting. Awesome. So it's to go somewhere else, really, and just take your mind somewhere else.
How long do them stress positions last?
The stress positions, I honestly can't tell you.
Wow,
but we were being tortured and being interrogated for nearly 14 hours.
Wow.
So we were on the run for 24 hours, and it was my team. We had such a good team. It wasn't that much to do with me, to be honest with you. We just had some great team members, and we had Carla, who was a great navigator. So our team, we were Team Bravo, I think. We got to the NAFI, we got to the rendezvous point. So we had the most time away from being tortured, whereas the others got caught a few hours earlier than us. So that means they were being tortured for a longer period. So we must have been on the run for close to 24 hours without any sleep. And then you get tortured for, 14 hours. And when they took the hoods off of us, and it was us four left, and it was light, you just don't know where you are. You don't know what day it is. Everything's just all, you're just not sure what's going on, but you're just thinking about staying alive. Like you just want to keep strong and stay alive. But I think it was close to 14 hours. And they would have gone on for longer, but they started pulling people off when Ellie, one of the sisters, she started developing onset of hypothermia.
Yeah.
And I think the medical officer was just like, listen, people are going to get, seriously hurt here. So I think they cut it short at 14 hours. I think they wanted to go longer than that.
Wow.
So,
prepare for the worst.
Oh, yeah. It's really, really tough, is that. And your muscles are just so depleted by then that I don't think there's any way you can train for that apart from just training your mind to go somewhere else. That's the advice I would give.
Brutal. Well, honestly, mate, everything you've told me today, although it sounds brutal, I will still be auditioning. I just want it to be like that. And who knows, maybe one day there'll be a winners meeting and I might even get to meet you.
Yes.
Honestly, mate, I'm so proud of what you did. You did amazing on the show, and I really appreciate your time today, telling us all your stories and stuff.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Curtis. No, thanks very much for listening. And I would just keep trying. I can't wait to see you winning it one day.
Well, honestly, I hope that happens one day. But just for all the listeners out there, where can everybody follow you and sort of track your progress since the show?
Yep. So Instagram's probably the best thing. So it's just at James Priestley. I think it's James_Priestley. Follow me on there. I don't post too much stuff, but I'm going to do a big post tomorrow about something that I wanted to do last year, but I wasn't able to do it. Nice. So I want to be setting new things each year now. Although SAS is unbelievable, such a great part of my life, has changed me forever. You come out a different person, you see things differently. Things that you used to bother you before don't bother you anymore. You're a new person. It will always be part of my life, but it's just one of those things that I've done that year now. I want to do a big thing every year that's going to test me and hopefully inspire people who think that things are impossible, that actually it can be done. I'm just an average bloke. Just doing stuff. Everybody can do it. You just got to change the way you look at it. So I would say, Instagram to check out what's going on. And tomorrow, so Friday, I'm going to do a post and hopefully it'll show people what we've been planning for a while.
Awesome, mate. Love that and love your attitude. I'm so, like you say, you are the perfect candidate and rightly so. You won the show. So I wish more people could obviously take inspiration from this. I certainly have. But like I said, appreciate your time, mate. Hopefully the listeners really enjoyed this one. And thanks everyone for listening. Make sure you're giving this podcast a 5-star rating because it definitely deserves it just for his torture alone. But mate, honestly, appreciate your time.
No, my pleasure, Curtis. Thanks so much, mate. Awesome to talk to you.
You too.